Hi there, my name is Amy. So my family is very odd. We are very close and loving, but we have a lot of strange, quirky behaviors that most families don't. For starters, my father loves to play pranks on the rest of us. Usually it's nothing too bad, but a few times he has taken things a bit too far, and it has caused issues. We have had some pretty big fights as a result. Sadly, even after all those big fights, though, my father never really learns his lesson and understands that he needs to tone down his pranks. That is, until my father's latest big prank. He came home on Friday night after work and looked extremely sad. His eyes were quite red and he looked like he had been crying. Mom and I went to try to find out what was upsetting him so much, as we wanted to know and help him.
I had the worst day at work. I damaged a very expensive machine and was fired, and still had to use our savings account to pay for it. I'm sorry, but we are flat broke. I don't know how we are going to be paying for our bills.
Oh my God, hon, that's terrible. What are we going to do? Are we going to lose the house?
I'm so sorry, but yes. I think we will be homeless and have to sell our possessions.
My father then showed us his phone, and on it was my parents' banking website, and it showed that they had zero money. My mom's face turned completely white and she began to panic. I began to think about how bad it was going to be to live on the street without any of my favorite belongings. I began to cry and to worry what this would mean. For days, my mom and I were worried about what was going to happen to us. We were worried sick until Monday morning came, and my father broke out laughing and told us that it had all been a ruse and that he hadn't lost his job or spent the money. He had merely transferred the money to a different account. We were so incredibly furious with him and swore that he had taken this joke way too far, and that it wasn't a joke done in good taste. It wasn't the first time that he had pulled something this horrible before. Years before, he had told us that he had been to the doctor and had been given a horrific diagnosis. He had said that he had been told that he had cancer, and that he had only weeks to live. It was only when my mother and I were nearly catatonic with grief did he finally let on that it was all just a bad joke. My mother was so angry with him that she told him that she wanted a divorce. But thankfully they went to counseling, and they were able to come away from it stronger. However, this truly felt like he hadn't learned a thing, and so my mother and I sat down and talked about it. My mother wanted to try one more time to get my father to see that pranks like these were unacceptable. He had gone too far, and while I didn't want for my parents to separate, I saw that it was probably the best option since I had no interest in being abused in such a selfish manner. My father, using our pain and suffering for his own amusement, was disgusting, and I knew that I could never again trust him. And so my mother came up with a plan to really make him understand that what he did was wrong. She did promise me that what she had in mind would blow my mind, and knowing now what she intended to do. I had to give it to her. Her plan was brilliant. So my father loved my mother and I, but not nearly as much as he loved his 1978 Corvette. It was a gorgeous sports car that he had rebuilt and customized. He had even asked that should he die, that he wanted to be buried in it. The plan was that my mother was going to have it towed away, and then we were going to tell my father that it had been stolen. Then, after days of him looking for it, we were going to move on to the next phase of our plan. And so, my mother called up a towing company and told them to haul it away. Meanwhile, she purchased a wrecked car from them that was the exact same color as my father's Corvette, and she made plans for them to deliver the wrecked car to our house in a few days. When my father came home from work, he was still smiling from ear to ear, being proud that his prank on us had gone so well.
Oh ha, I got you two really well.
Oh? Well, looks like Karma has come and paid you a visit.
What are you talking about?
Well, while you were at work, someone came and stole your Corvette.
Huh, real funny guys.
If you don't believe us, then go have a look. We had made sure that it looked like someone had broken into the garage by smashing the lock to the garage door. We also made it look like they had taken more than just the car and had filled its trunk with lots of my father's more expensive tools. He was truly shocked when he saw the car, and many of his valuables were missing.
Wait a minute, so you guys weren't lying?
No, of course we weren't. Unlike some people, we don't lie to people we love. He seemed incredibly upset by this and nearly broke down in tears as he called up the police department to report the car stolen. My mother, who had friends in the police department, had told them about what she had planned, and they agreed to play a part in making sure the punishment we planned for my father was not interrupted. They sent a police officer out to take a statement from my father, but never filed it. And so for the next few days, my father searched everywhere to try to find his car. After a few days, the demolished decoy car was delivered, and when my father came home, he began weeping when he saw it.
Oh my God. Is that my Corvette?
I'm very sorry, but yes, it is.
But what happened to it?
The thief that stole it got into a car accident and totaled it. I'm sorry, but it's destroyed. He really seemed to be taking the destruction of his car very hard, after a few minutes of him solidly weeping about his lost car. My mother rolled her eyes and then grinned when a flatbed truck pulled up in front of the house. There was something on the back of it, but it was covered by a sheet, and my mother smiled broadly when she saw it.
You know what? You're right. Your car wasn't stolen. I had it towed away.
She pulled out her phone and showed my father the first frame of a video that she had taken with her phone earlier in the day. I didn't know what the flatbed truck was all about, or that my mother had taken a video earlier today of my father's car, but I trusted my mother knew what she was doing. That was when my mother slammed my father with news that was guaranteed to shatter him.
No, hun. This car in front of us isn't your car. It's just a junker I got to scare you.
Wait, is that really true?
For the most part, yes.
I can't believe you would do this. It's one thing to play a harmless prank like I do, but another to just about making me think my precious car was stolen.
Well, have I got news for you?
My mother waited until the wave of relief fully washed over my father before hitting play on the video. In it showed my father's car being picked up by a crane and then placed into a compactor big enough for a car and then crushed. He watched in renewed horror as his car was turned into a cube. Then my mother took the sheet off the object on the flatbed, revealing what remained of my father's 1978 Corvette. This is what happens when you play too many cruel jokes on the people you supposedly love.
But this is just another joke, right? My car is all right, right?
No, you idiot. This cube is all that is left of your precious car being crushed. We're done being your personal punching bags. You wrecked our marriage with your abusive pranks, and not only did I destroy your precious car in retaliation, but I also went and spoke to a lawyer and had them draft up these.
My mother then passed a stack of papers to my father, who looked at them like a deer in the headlights of a car.
But what are these?
Divorce papers? I'm sick of your bullshit. I want a divorce and full custody of our daughter. Both of us are sick and tired of all these games you play. You've been cruel and hurtful to us for too long, and we aren't putting up with it anymore.
My mother demanded that my father pack a bag and leave right away and stay at a hotel until the courts decided to hear their case. In shock, he did as he was told to, begging the entire time for us to forgive him and reconsider the divorce. However, both my mother and I were past the point of caring and no longer loved him. He didn't have to live in a hotel long before a judge was assigned to their case. The judge, having heard about what my mother had done to my father's car and felt that it paled in comparison to the emotional abuse that he had put us through. And so, not only did the judge award my mother full custody, but he was given the house and a sizable amount of their savings. It's been several months since the divorce was finalized, and I do feel sorry for my father, but after all that he had put my mother and I through. Karma has made him live in a small studio apartment above a restaurant with two other men that are also divorced. The three of them regularly waste their whole paychecks at the restaurant getting drunk and crying over their past mistakes. That's just what happens when you mistreat your family and take their love for granted. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.